Welcome back to another beautiful day in winter in Miami. It is obviously gorgeous, as you guys can see. Not a cloud in the sky, sun is shining. It's like in the low 80s. It is just gorgeous. And it's actually warmer than it's supposed to be this time of year, but I'm not complaining, you know? It could be worse. I moved away from the cold, so I didn't have to deal with that, and this is what we get instead. Now, one of the things we've been covering a lot on the channel has been home affordability, or rather unaffordability, and I kind of want to have a continuation with that today and just bring up some stats and figures on this just to show where things are at. That is kind of just one of the ultimate arguments of why home prices are likely to continue to fall among all the other factors that we've been discussing. But home affordability is right up there at the top of the list because it's one of those things that cannot change unless a couple of dynamics shift. You either need to have home prices come down, you either have interest rates come way down, or everybody needs to make more money, or some combination of all of those things. And right now, the number one thing that we're seeing happen is home prices come down, at least in a lot of markets, not everywhere, but in most places, prices are softening, if not flat out just dropping off a cliff, depending on where you're at. Interest rates are only down 1 percentage point, and they're starting to creep back up. And a lot of people are expecting that interest rates are going to be lower by the end of the year than they are right now. But even if they are slightly lower than they are today by the end of the year, that's still not going to really help people in terms of affordability if prices remain too high. So let's take a look at some of this. The National Association of Home Builders has taken a look at this recently to determine where is the affordable housing and how much are people paying for homes right now, which obviously is important data for them to know, considering they're in the business of building and selling homes to end users. And what's typically considered affordable is when a family doesn't have to spend more than 28% of their income on the mortgage. And this is some truly shocking statistics to go along with this. As of the last quarter of 2022, only 38% of the homes sold in the entire US were affordable for families who were earning the median national income of $90,000. So a household that's earning 90 grand, only about 38% of the purchases made in the entire country were actually affordable for people in this income range. Now I want you to take a hard look at yourself, your neighbors, you know, where you live, the type of jobs that people do in your neighborhood, and try to imagine how many people do you think that live in your area earn $90,000 a year. Now this is household income, so obviously you can have two people earning 45 grand and that would be a $90,000 income. And why is this significant? The National Association of Home Builders has been keeping track of this data since 2012. And this is literally the lowest level of affordability when it comes to home sales that they have seen since they've been keeping track. And the reason this is so significant is because the less home buyers and families in general can afford to buy at these prices, then the more you're going to see people sit this out, not buy homes, because they just can't, all right? It's not even a choice. It's because even if they wanted to buy, they cannot do it under these circumstances. And so that's why I keep saying that something has to give, and the path of least resistance for all of this to change right now is home prices coming down. Because here's the other issue with this. The mainstream media, and of course even the Home Builders Association, focuses on interest rates coming down as being the savior for people being able to get back into the market, but not recognizing the fact that interest rates coming back down anytime soon is probably not going to happen. And even if interest rates do come down by the end of the year, which is highly unlikely for it to come down significantly, if they do come down, I anticipate rates will still be in the high fives. Who knows, right? It could be even higher than right now, but we'll see. But they're overlooking one of the most important problems here, which is, like I've told you guys time and time again, you can never change how much you pay for the property. The purchase price will be permanent forever. It's a forever number. You cannot change. Interest rates fluctuate. They go up, they go down. You can change your interest rate at some point in the future. People are even doing it right now, even though it probably doesn't even make any sense, but they're still doing it. So buying when you get a better deal on the price is always going to be much better, because you're going to save money on property insurance. You're going to save money on property taxes. You're going to save money on closing costs. And you're also going to have more upside when it comes to the resale potential of your property in the future when you are ready to sell. Because think about it in all these very simple terms. Not only are you getting all these benefits that I just mentioned, but when it's time to sell the property in the future, which is inevitable, almost everyone will sell the house they're buying today at some point in the future, the less you pay for it, the more you'll have to gain in equity over the years, versus if you pay a fortune for it now just because interest rates are low, then you're going to be the one left holding the bag in the future and hoping you can sell the place for more than what you paid for it. But I've told people this a million times. You know, real estate is a long-term play, guys. If you can hang on to a piece of property for 10, 15 years, maybe even longer, then you'll be okay, most likely. You're going to come out of this thing ahead. But the reality is most people just don't do that. And signs are everywhere, literally signs. You can see a sign right here, new price. And we walked by this house maybe a month or two ago.
And just like everything else around here, it's still for sale. They've been trying to sell this place since Halloween, starting off at $3,750,000. They dropped at $150,000, and now they just did another $300,000 price cut. It's still for sale, and yeah, just another empty house.
And to just keep hammering out this housing affordability issue, how about this one? The median home price now is around $378,000, and that's using the National Association of Realtors quote of what it is right now. They say that home prices went up 42% over the past 3 years. And according to this same data from the National Association of Realtors, home prices peaked last summer at about $412,000, and as you can see, that number has already come down about $30,000 nationwide, which is a welcome relief. And here's one thing that always gets brought up about home prices and percentages that a lot of people don't think about. Even I haven't thought about this much until some of you guys brought it up to my attention, and that is, if home prices go up 42%, a lot of people think, well, in order for us to have a housing crash, then home prices need to fall 40 or 50%, right, to come back down to where they were before. But if you think about math and the way percentages work, that's not actually true. So the idea here is when home prices are higher, like now, they don't need to fall by 40% in order for us to have a housing crash or for prices to get back to pre-pandemic levels, because the higher the number is, the lower the percentage it needs to fall by in order for prices to get back to normal. So for example, 40% of $400,000 is a lot more than 40% of, let's say, pre-pandemic prices of about $250,000. 40% of $250,000 is $100,000 versus 40% of $400,000 is about $160,000. So you see what I'm saying? That we don't need to have prices fall by as much of a percentage as they went up by, simply because the price is so much higher now. Hopefully that makes sense. But remember how we talked a little bit ago about how for a mortgage payment to be considered affordable, it shouldn't be more than 28% of your household income. Well, fast forward to today, the average mortgage payment costs people about 40% of their income. So, that's another interesting thing that we hear about, one of the reasons why things aren't going to come down is because there were no bad loans given this time around. We don't have the subprime lending. Maybe we don't have the subprime lending, but what we do have is people stretching to the max to afford a home, even to this day. And that situation is basically the death blow. You're already stretched to the max to afford your monthly housing payment, and then wham, something happens, the recession hits, one of the earners of the household loses their job, zero income. What do you do now? You know what I mean? And the affordability issue is so big that first-time home buyers that buy what's considered to be a starter home now at about a $321,000 price point with a 10% down payment, they need to earn about $100,000 a year to afford this. So think about that for a minute. the average first-time homebuyer household needs to earn $100,000 a year to buy a $321,000 house, which is still below the median house price right now, by the way. So that just goes to show you that unaffordability is going to be one of the leading causes of death of this housing market. Just like you always hear those stats of cancer and heart disease, leading cause of death in the United States. Well, the unaffordability crisis is going to be the leading cause of death, I believe, with this housing market. But hey guys, if you need to make money, you should be looking at working at the gas station Buckys. You ever heard of this place? I've been there a couple times on some of my road trips, and there's these huge gas stations with like 50 pumps. They have like a whole convenience store inside. It's almost like going to a mini Walmart or something like that. And they announced in a recent job post that you could be earning up to $225,000 a year working for this company. And I'm sure there's all kinds of caveats and catches to that, and most people will never earn anywhere close to that with this company. But hey, if you're looking for a high-paying job that doesn't require a college degree, maybe you should look at working at Bucky's, because who would have thought you could make, you know, multiple six-figure income working for a gas station? I mean, I never heard anything like that. That sounds amazing to me. Also, they said they'll do a 401k match up to 6%, plus they give you $2 an hour additional if you do the overnight shift. So if you're a night owl like me, don't mind working the graveyard shift, you can earn even extra money that way. Now, recently the Fed did a survey with bank loan officers, and they reported less demand for loans at the end of last year and tighter lending standards than before. And apparently, this type of behavior is consistent with past recessions. And you know what else is a consistent leading indicator of recessions in the past? Is this massive yield curve inversion that we have going on right now. And here's something to think about when it comes to recessions. They typically occur after the economy has peaked, and I would say the second part of last year probably felt like the peak. And just by looking at where housing prices have gone since then, I think it's a pretty clear indicator that things are not looking good. And you can even look at the stock market, you can look at all kinds of things. The stock market last year began way higher than it ended, and right now they're calling this rally that's going on right now a bear market trap. It's temporary, and people who think that, you know, they can just put all their money into Bed Bath & Beyond or something right now and get rich are going to be in for a rude awakening very soon. In fact, it's funny because a report that came out with this said that with all this talk that we hear about a potential soft landing, could in fact be one of the most reliable indicators that we're already in a recession. And an interesting thing to look at with this is apparently back in the year 2000 and in 2006, right before some of those previous recessions, there was a spike in news articles that referenced a soft landing. So because we're seeing so much of this right now, combined with the hugely inverted yield curve, as well as the fact that lending standards are tightening up right now and less people are getting loans for things, is a pretty clear indicator that the recession has already began. But the thing is, it seems like our government and the Federal Reserve, everybody is basically avoiding trying to use the term recession, because I think it's all a mental thing, you know? If people hear the word recession on the mainstream media saying that, hey, this is it, we're in a recession, then that begins the spiral down of, you know, more businesses continuing to do layoffs, tightening up spending, and it's kind of like one of those self-fulfilling prophecies where because everybody thinks things are bad, they're going to hang on to their wallets even tighter and things will just get worse from there. And that's why you're seeing all these articles telling people, go out and spend, go out and buy a house, go out and do everything that they're telling you to do, because it's a great time to be doing that. And don't worry, there's no recession, because that's their plan to keep the economy going right now. And you can see this happening everywhere, you know, in the UK, Canada, they're all getting fed the same plate of lies right now. In fact, in Toronto, the real estate board there is saying that home prices are going to go back up this year because the average price in January in Toronto, just a little bit over $1 million, and they expect it to go back up to $1.14 million at some point later this year. And they forecast 70,000 sales this year, which is going to be a little bit below last year, but they surveyed a bunch of people, and 28% of those surveyed say they're considering buying a house this year in Toronto. And why are they saying this? Because home prices have fallen through the floor there already just in the last 6 months, and we're only just getting started into 2023, and Canada's doing the same thing that we're doing here. All the central banks have raised interest rates, and they're likely going to keep the rates high indefinitely. And for them to come out and say that they think home prices are going to go up in Toronto this year, they're just delusional, guys. They're trying to get people to FOMO back into the market here in Canada, the UK, you name it. You've probably seen local articles where you live talking about these sort of things. I was surprised, however, to see a truthful story come out of Dallas, Texas, actually admitting that home prices there have fallen 13% since the peak last summer. And right now the median home price there is about $380,000, and last summer it was $435,000. And some of the local real estate brokers there are talking about how the prices are going to remain consistent the way they are right now, and they're going to be bidding wars again later again this summer, and it's going to be more of a steady market, but no catastrophic crash, nothing like that going on. But home prices have fallen 50 grand, guys, in 6 months. So I don't know, is 50 grand catastrophic? You tell me. How much further does it have to come down for it to be catastrophic? Well, that's everybody's opinion, right? There's no one single number that we can pin on that. But hey, if you look at the last housing crash, according to Case-Shiller, the home prices came down nationwide about 27%, and that was considered, the biggest housing crash that we've seen since the Great Depression. 13% is half of 26, guys, and then if it just comes down twice as much as it has in Dallas, then that's already on the same level that we saw during the Great Recession. So I think the biggest narrative out there right now is don't worry about it, because things are in recovery mode. Every single news outlet out there is trying to get you to brush off the fact that home prices have come down 13% in Dallas, or 15% in San Francisco, or 19% in Austin, Texas, or wherever, you name your city, and how much it's come down by. You know what I mean? And the other big argument is always, oh, inventory's still low. Well, yeah, it's kind of low right now. We haven't seen the spring and summer buying season yet, where we always see inventory spike every single year. What's going to happen this year? Because we just talked about how unaffordable housing is and how people just can't afford to buy under these circumstances. So who's going to be out buying all these homes when inventory does spike? That's what I want to know. In my opinion, what's going to keep the market going throughout the rest of this year are high-income earners that are not nearly as much affected by this recession as, people that might be facing layoffs or don't have a lot of savings built up, people living off of credit cards, things like that. And a lot of these foreign buyers are propping up the market as well. Like in Florida, for example, guys, the number one person that buys here in this state is not somebody from New York or Chicago or LA, it's people from other countries. That's why prices are so high here. And obviously they don't buy everywhere across the US, but in certain markets, they really do their part in keeping home prices much higher than they actually should be. And so far that's legal. So far anybody from anywhere in the world can come here and buy up our real estate, and that's okay. If you have a problem with that, guess you got to take it up with your local state representative and hope that something gets done about it. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think that home prices will give before anything else, and that's how we're going to get back to affordability again? Do you think all of a sudden people are going to start making more money? Everyone's going to get raises that not only keep up with inflation but surpass it and are able to support today's home prices and cost of living? Or do you think interest rates are going to be back down to the 3% mark by the end of this year, like they were a year ago, and that's going to make housing more affordable again? Let me know what you guys are thinking. I've already told you my opinion. I think that home prices coming down is the path of least resistance here with this scenario, and we're already starting to see it happen. You're not seeing people's salaries go up by 20 or 30% in most cases, and interest rates have only come down a percentage point, and like I said, they're already starting to creep back up, and they're going to continue to fluctuate throughout the year. And you know, hoping and praying for that to happen, probably not the greatest strategy. I'd be more looking at, you know, what are homes really worth in my market, and when you find one, then you buy it. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you click the bell notification down below. YouTube will alert you every time I post a new video, and if you don't want to wait, check out my next one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.